Storware's main specialty is virtualization and data protection for it. My name is Marcin Kubacki, 123123. Today's topic is Hyper-V. Let's start with a brief overview of what Hyper-V features actually are supported in Storware Backup and Recovery. So, as you noticed, all of the major, quite recent versions of Windows are supported, and we use RCT mechanism to protect virtual machines. This means that we are able to utilize native change block tracking technology that Microsoft delivers. Now, we require agent, but agent is on the hypervisor level, so it's not strictly agent-based backup that you need to install anything inside your virtual machines, but it requires to be installed on the host, and that's the only actually way that we are able to grab the data directly from the Microsoft technology. Obviously, full and incremental backups are supported, and there is also option for quiet snapshots. It's called production checkpoints in Microsoft terms. And now, if you would like also to utilize other quiet technology, let's say, you may directly execute pre-post access scripts on your virtual machine. So that's a generic mechanism for all supported platforms that we have. Now, if you go into the architecture side, so from the Hyper-V perspective, we are installed outside. Well, agent component is installed on every host. So for standalone servers, you have a bunch of Hyper-V servers. You need to install agent on every one of them. Once you have installed them, Node can reside anywhere in your infrastructure, connects to those Hyper-V agents and exports data through this agent component. In this particular scenario, you see that you can use wide range of backup destinations just after the data has been exported to the node. Now, you probably have a slightly larger deployment, and you may want to form a cluster. So using cluster IP, you still are able to connect to Hyper-V agents. Still, all of these hosts require agent to be installed on each one of them. Once you have added, the only difference actually here is that from the provider perspective, you have to choose specifically that you need to add manager, technically, manager that holds a list of hypervisors. So once you have installed the agents, you need to provide a single cluster IP Hyper-V manager inside the Storware Backup and Recovery, and all of the hypervisors will be detected during the inventory synchronization. Microsoft also provided a centralized console. It's called SCVMM, and SCVMM also requires separate agents. Agent just to communicate and fetch information directly from SCVMM. So another agent is installed on the SCVMM host, but exactly like in the same way, transfers occur directly from the Hyper-V agents. So if you have multiple agents, they will be able to simultaneously export data. So it's going to scale linearly against the number of your hypervisors. The agents on the SCVMM is only required for management purposes. In all cases, not just this one which is here shown, we are also able to export data directly from the Hyper-V agents to the data domain. So there is a native integration with data domain, so it scales even better because you don't have to transfer data through the node. You can transfer directly from multiple agents data to your data domain installation. Agent can be installed using a simple wizard, so when you deploy it, you have to just answer a few simple questions. First is where to install the agent itself, which protocols are supposed to be enabled. You can, for instance, enable only HTTPS if you would like to. Maybe in the lab you prefer not to do so. Then you provide a random password. It should be sophisticated and long. And once you have that, you need to add a new hypervisor or hypervisor manager. Okay, so the difference is, as I mentioned, it differs just between the deployment types: standalone servers versus SCVMM or cluster IP. In all cases, even if you provide SCVMM or cluster IP, you will have list of hypervisors available in your list. You also are required to provide specific credentials for all of these hosts in the details. Microsoft Hyper-V 2020 and above are supported, and everywhere where Hyper-V role is supported, we are able to install our agent. Server requires local volumes with or SMB 3.0 file shares where you are hosting your virtual machines, and if you would like to use Hyper-V failover cluster, we require SMB also 3.0 file shares. Again, if you require clustered shared volumes, those are also supported. And the same applies if you would like to share data over the scale-out file system. So that the only requirement again is also only SMB 3.0 protocol. Only RCT backups are supported, so no VSS. VSS is, from our standpoint, deprecated technology, so RCT backups are our primary choice in this case. If you need to install agent, there are a few considerations. So .NET Framework needs to be 4.7.2 or above installed. It can also be installed in a silent mode. So Wizard that I have shown you, it's only one of the options. It opens a port, TCP port 50882, so that from the network perspective it needs to be opened both on the hypervisor and in some components in your network so that we are able to reach this port. And remember that data travels from the Hyper-V to the Storware Backup and Recovery nodes using the LAN network in this case. So this needs to be a fast dedicated network in order to achieve a proper performance. Data is encrypted on flight between the agent and Storware Backup and Recovery, and Hyper-V also, our Hyper-V implementation also supports parallelism. So these individual disk drives can be read simultaneously using multiple threads. That's the setting that you can enable in the node configuration and Hyper-V settings, and that boosts even faster the overall speed rate if you need to. For Hyper-V, we support instant recovery. So from our backup destinations repository, we are able to share data, and virtual machine can directly be booted from the repository without the need to do full restore. For the Windows instances, the data is shared over the SMB, and Hyper-V sees this as another share that can be used to mount drives and run the virtual machine. From the logic perspective, mounted backup is the way we visualize instantly restored virtual machines. It's a temporary artifact, but we also support storage life migration. Storage life migration can be enabled as an option in the instant recovery window, or later manually if you need to, once the data has been tested. For instance, if it has booted successfully, the application is up and running, then you can just invoke this operation on the mounted backup level. As I already mentioned, direct transfers to data domain are also supported, and that's especially useful if you have multiple hypervisors and you would like to have this option for client-side deduplication that is used. So this only is suitable for data domain synthetic backup destination, but nevertheless it's an option that is worth considering if you have already data domain in your company. BoostFS is still required as the staging. It's not directly used for the backup process, but it may be used, for instance, for the restore operations and other aspects. So from the architectural point of view, the only thing that actually changes is the data during the backup is being actually transferred directly to the data domain. One may also wonder if the Azure Stack HCI is supported. Yes, it is. So you have exactly the same deployment. You install agent on all of the hypervisors that form your Azure Stack HCI cluster. So in your settings, you just need to provide cluster IP as the hypervisor manager that is used for configuration. Again, if you need to use direct transfers to data domain, that's also supported. So nothing changes from this perspective. It also supports instant recovery. Now let's do the demo. Now let's log in into the admin console. Now in my main dashboard, you see that all of my previous backups have been successful and I have a single node. In my virtualization providers tab, I have a standalone Hyper-V server. When I click list of the hypervisors, notice that I have Hyper-V as a standalone host and Hyper-V as the manager or / Azure Stack HCI. So whenever you add standalone server, you just need to provide host and password that you have provided in your agent, and specified which nodes are responsible for using this agent. Now when you are using the manager, you need to specify infrastructure type, if it's SCVMM or failover cluster. And that's actually the only difference, because other settings are still the same. Now when you add it as the hypervisor manager, you will have additional tab in here with the hypervisors, and inside each of the hypervisor details you will have option to specify credentials for your agents. Those credentials are not directly guessed based on your hypervisor manager settings, so we need access to all of the agents. When you run inventory synchronization, you will end up with instances already in your inventories, as I already see here. And now I can, let's say, run backup. Incremental, and this creates a task. So I have my incremental backup in the task console already. It has been assigned to the node and the task has already started. In the backup details, in the instance details, notice that I have few settings. Here is the place where you specify the pre and post snapshots command. You can modify also the policy and node configuration for this particular for this particular instance. And inside the Hyper-V manager, notice that I see details for all of the instances and backups that have been done for this particular hypervisor or hypervisor manager. We scan always the storages, networks, and so on, required later for the recovery. For Hyper-V, strictly speaking, storage, like the data store, doesn't exist. It's rather the path residing on your Hyper-V environment. Inside the backup policies, notice that there is an option for quiescing or freezing before snapshots. So that obviously depends on the platform, and the guest tools are required to be installed inside the Hyper-V as well. Auto assignment works based on the naming convention, so that's the way how you can automatically assign to this policy virtual machines. Incremental backup has already completed. If you go to the instance details and backup history, you can see that this one has completed, and it exported only 3 megabytes, and it has been stored in the synthetic backup destination. Now let's do a regular restore. So I can change optionally the name of the virtual machine that is going to be restored. I can specify different hypervisor if I need to, or backup. Now I need to map to which folders, where are going to reside my drive, so I choose C restore. I can optionally map networks to the specific network interface cards and power on VM if necessary. So I click Summary and Restore. And it creates another workflow in my console. So I see here that there is a restore process. And the first step is to restore data to the staging space. This one is instant because the data already resides and it is merged because it's synthetic backup destination. So it's available for being imported. And then there is an import task which basically copies data to the hypervisor host and registers virtual machine. So let it run in the background. My workflow has already completed, so let's see my instance. Notice that I have here additional instance, it's called restore2. Now it's not the only way you can restore virtual machines with Storware Backup and Recovery. The first thing is to mount backup, so we can actually specify in here which backup you want to mount and the mode in which you are mounting the backup. So let's run mount file systems automatically. And this actually means that all of the residing file systems are going to be mounted so that you can browse and download data via the browser. You can also copy data directly from the node if it's a very large amount of data, or you can transfer such data to the remote host. But nevertheless, remember that it is still mount point on the Linux. So if you would like to preserve Windows permissions, which may be quite important in many cases, there is additional option here to actually share drives over iSCSI. So it's going to share raw data. And you just need to use additional Windows guest, which is able to interpret appropriate Windows permissions and mount this data directly there. And copy files, whatever you need to, directly over iSCSI. Notice that my mount operation restore phase has already completed. I have mount phase, so data is already available and just it requires to be mounted for browsing. Mount has succeeded, and now if you go to the mounted backups and in the details, notice that you can browse this file system. So here you see that I have some Linux installed inside, so I have a single root file system even available. So if you have some home directories etc. mounted, it could also be automatically merged and mounted in the same way as it is in the fs tab file. As I mentioned, here is also the option for remote upload. So you may ask actually Node to push a package with an archive with the contents of the specific files and copy them over SSH or WinRM to the remote host from the Node perspective. Additional option is instant recovery. So here you have option for instant restore, and notice that this screen is exactly the same. However, here you have this option for live storage migration. So here is actually the path where you would like to temporarily store your data and later to migrate data. So temporary is going to be stored in the backup destination, and to this path eventually data is going to be migrated once the live storage migration is executed. But if you don't select this particular checkbox in here, you later are able to invoke this operation from the list of the mounted backups, because technically it's some kind of the mount operation that we are able to execute against the virtual machine. And this concludes my demo. As you have noticed, using this agent installed on the Hyper-V host, we are able to download data directly from multiple hypervisor managers in the different configurations. So not only standalone Hyper-V servers are supported, but you can also use the SCVMM approach, cluster IP, and there is also a direct option for transfers to the data domain if necessary. So try Storware Backup and Recovery and check out how it works in your Hyper-V environment. Thank you for watching.